Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday, May 27th, and welcome to our devotional for today. As we begin, as we like to do, just want to pause and reflect on what we're grateful for. This is a great way to help strengthen our relational connections and also really lays the foundation for worship and connection with God. So let's pause together and reflect on what we're grateful for today. Our passage for today is going to be Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47. We're reflecting on this passage this week in response as an overflow of this past Sunday sermon, and really as a way to look ahead to celebrating the birthday of the church this Sunday for Pentecost. So let's read this together. I'll read it twice and invite you to pay attention to what stands out to you as an indication of how God might be speaking to you today. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as they had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Let's read it one more time. This earliest community of Jesus' followers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as they had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. When you think of the word devoted, what comes to mind? In the sense of I'm devoted to a person, my girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse. I'm devoted to a cause. I'm devoted to work or to my kids. I'm devoted to a sports team or this TV show. What would you describe that you're devoted to? If you think of the word devoted, what in your life would you seem devoted to? Especially if someone were to look at your life. What would they see? What would they see in you that you're devoted to? What would be the markers or indications of your devotion? Well, one of the things that the early church, in this passage we see here, was known for was its devotion to the fellowship, which then gets carried on down where it says, all the believers were together and had everything in common. And selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as they had need. When we don't really use the word fellowship that often, do we? I mean, the Fellowship of the Ring, that's maybe the most common usage of the word that I can think of off the top of my head. it feels like a word that religious people, like church people, would use to describe, like, maybe something sort of corny, like after the service you're eating coffee and donuts or something. That's sort of what it would feel like, doesn't it? Well, there's one sense in which the fellowship is like the community life of the church. The community, like the fellowship, the key word being there, like the. There's another way that it means, but I'll get to that in a second. But how would you describe your sense of connection with a specific community of Jesus's people? Like the fellowship of, again, it doesn't need to be a specific church. It might be that you're really devoted in fellowship to a group of Jesus' disciples in your block or in your college dorm or something. It doesn't need to be, and I'm not. But it could be a church. It might be. How would you characterize your sense of connection and commitment, did I dare say devotion, to that community life and the specific people that are part of that community? What would be the markers of that sense of commitment or connection? How would you know? So that's one sense of the word fellowship, but there's really that's the not the deepest one. That's the one that maybe we'd think of, like, again, the fellowship of the ring is like the people that were about the ring, and the fellowship of the Renaissance Vineyard would be the people that are connected there. There's that sense. But in the cheesy sort of like, it's fellowship hour, fellowship time, gets at sort of something between that understanding and this next understanding, but doesn't get it either very well. The idea that a fellowship is a community of people flows from the deeper understanding of fellowship, which is the Greek word koinonia, which really has to do with like a deep sharing of life. So it doesn't mean just like sharing sort of banalities over bagels after church, nor sort of laughing over a beverage in a restaurant downtown on a Sunday afternoon. Then that's fellowship. It could be that. Those things they're just less than, they're not other than. Fellowship is like the rich sharing of your life. Think of, maybe be helpful. When is a time when you felt like you had really quality friendships and relationships where you like sort of really sacrificial towards one another? Can you think of a time like that? For many of us, it's maybe college or perhaps high school, where we'd sort of go above and beyond. We really shared life together. If you're in the armed services or perhaps you're a first responder, that they might get at that as well. What do you think of the idea of like sharing things in common? What does that mean? How would you do that with a family or like in your adulting now? How do you feel about selling your possessions and goods so that you can give to others in need? Or maybe, since we're probably not going to sell my iPad to give to others. Maybe we would, but maybe we're not. Maybe we'd say, I'm going to not get a new iPad and use the old one, and then take the money that I'm saving and then use that to help others, whether that's family or friends, a neighbor. Maybe we give it to the church so that we can help partner with the church in the work it's doing. How do you feel about that? How's that going for you in your life? Jesus has a lot to say about generosity. The book of Acts is actually, in really the Bible, the New Testament, the letters of Paul have quite a bit to say about it as well. And it seems like this rich, deep, sacrificial fellowship, this koinonia, this sharing of time, energy, and resource was a key part of people being filled with awe and sort of the wonder and favor that the early followers of Jesus seemed to have in Jerusalem. What do you think about that? You might consider how you could respond. What invitation is Jesus extending to you today? As I read the passage one last time. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as he had need. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Jesus, we pray that you would reveal yourself to us today. May your grace and truth be upon us, we pray. Amen. As you think of the last 24 hours, where have you seen God active and experienced God being present to you in your life? As you sort of review your life stream over the past day, where did you sense joy, peace, faith, hope, love? Think about that. Talk to God about it. And pay attention to what was going on in your life so that perhaps you can experience more consolation today. And in a similar way, as you review the last 24 hours, like remote control in hand with God, and the stream passes by, scenes, what scenes stand out as being filled with desolation? A sense of God's absence. Talk to God about those scenes. Notice what was going on in your life then. Maybe with that benefit of hindsight, you'll see where God really was active with you during those times. In light of what you've discovered, what is God inviting you into today? How can you respond? Now I invite you to talk to God as you would with a friend about the cares and concerns that you're carrying into today. Friend, you are loved.